So Sean, how is it that you became a teacher? How did that happen?
Well, I really sort of fell into academia. Certainly at university, I began to think about teaching as a career, but I'd certainly never thought of tertiary education. I didn't think I was that bright. So I was looking at high school teaching. And certainly in history.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly at high school, history had always been the subject and I enjoyed most. And in the Australian system, in New South Wales, we had what was called a 3-unit, which was the higher level. And so I'd done ancient and modern history. And so history was certainly what I saw as the area that I was good at and what I pursued at university. So I really was thinking about a teaching secondary career, and so I did a lot of English because you had to have 2 teaching methods in Australia at that time. And then I was leaning towards law because I thought I could make more money than teaching. I was the son of a teacher, so I knew that teachers didn't get fantastically well paid. And so I started to move towards thinking about law and got into law school. And then in the Australian system, we do 3 years of undergraduate and then our 4th year, which is our honours year. And so I was invited to do honours in history, and I thought, oh, that would be nice to do. It'd be something to enjoy before I move off into a career of work. So I did that for a year, and then I postponed my admission to law school for a year. And then after the end of that, I somehow miraculously got a first, and people said, you're really good at this, why don't you pursue further studies? And so it was really that case. I certainly had not gone in thinking I wanted to be a historian. It was opportunities presented themselves and I made decisions.
And so you found that you were actually really good at being a historian?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I did. It was certainly what I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed the research. I didn't enjoy writing as much as the research, but the writing was always compensated by the enjoyment of research. And certainly in my 3rd year of my undergraduate degree, when we were given greater opportunity to do sort of primary research, that's when the real enjoyment of history began to grow. So there was an opportunity. The fact that to do a PhD, you got a scholarship and you got money, and I'd been without money for some time, made me think, yeah, let's do this, and I can always go back to law school later on. Because you were always told, this was the late 1980s in Australia, and there was essentially a lost generation of academics who didn't get jobs. You were always told, don't do a PhD if you think you're going to get an academic job, because you won't. Do it because you want to do it, and then see what happens. And so that was certainly the way I approached it.
So you must have loved history, but what about teaching history?
Yeah, I mean, I've been musing on that very connection, and I guess initially I didn't see the teaching. I saw the history. I saw the PhD as me being a historian, and I'd essentially been told, don't do this if you want to get an academic job, because so few people do. So I really put the teaching to one side. I mean, from the first year of my PhD, I did tutor, and I enjoyed that. But yeah, for me, the passion was in the discipline of history and being a practicing historian. It was much later that that connection with teaching, that part of the job of being an academic historian was teaching, where that became more important. Indeed, I'd argue that my biggest trepidation about an academic career was teaching. The passion was driven by the history. To do that, you had to teach. And so I actually went into teaching quite fearful, and it probably shaped a lot of the way I thought about teaching, because I didn't feel that I was going to be particularly good at it. And so no, there was no passion with teaching initially. It was all about the discipline.
So how did that change?
It's hard to identify moments. It was a process of evolution, and in some respects, one day I woke up and realised that being an academic historian involved that practice in your discipline and also teaching, and the two became one. I didn't see that there was a distinction between them, and I increasingly began to enjoy, especially when I moved out of simply tutoring other people's courses and into my own courses, where it was, I could much more clearly see the connection with my disciplinary practice and the teaching, because I was designing the courses, I was writing the lectures. And I think that's where the passion from the discipline began to inform my teaching.